Family that left me on the streets at 16. Now 30 years later want to apologize and make up for lost time. Okay. As a mild larker on Reddit, thought I would share my story and newest development in my life after 30 years. Might be a bit long, but will do my very best to give you context without too much fluff. Hope this is the right sub. So I lost my mom when I was 12 to breast cancer. So that just left me and my dad. It was a tough time, but we got through it together. When I was 14, Dad met and married my stepmom Ashley, who brought with her my stepbrother Mark, 14, and stepsister Emily, 12. I got along with Ashley and Emily really well, but Mark not so much so. He and I were always getting into arguments and fights. I was always told by my dad to give Mark a break, because he's been the man of his house for a while. So this is all new. Like somehow it wasn't new to me. Anyways, when I was 15, I met a girl at school, Lisa, and we started dating. As much as one can date at 15. However, Mark apparently had a crush on her, and was mad that I asked her out. He started a fight over it, in which my dad had to intervene once again. And somehow I again was made to be the bad guy. One day after my 16th birthday, my stepmom was putting away my laundry and started yelling. Which was awkward because my girlfriend Lisa was there. We all ran thinking the worst. When we got to my room, my stepmom was holding several pairs of my sister's underwear, yelling at me, why they are in my drawer. I had no answer as I'd never seen them before. Of course no one believed me, no matter how much protesting I did. Then Mark piped up saying he always caught me staring at his sister, thought it was creepy, and caught me once saying I wish I could marry her. Obviously lying, but that was all it took. Lisa slapped me and called me a perv and told me we were done, and walked out. My dad grabbed me by the arm and threw me out of the house, yelling at me that he wasn't going to put his daughter at risk from a perv, not the word he used, but you get it. I banged on the door to be let in, crying and telling them it was all lies told by Mark. My dad apparently had enough. I heard the locks. He opened the door and shoved me to the ground and told me to get lost. I told him I had nowhere to go and he said that wasn't his problem, then closed the door. I found myself on the streets, with nothing to my name. No place to go. I tried calling my dad's parents, but he had already called them, and they told me they won't help a perv. My mom's parents passed away before I was born. Well, I lived on the streets for 2 years, doing what I had to in order to survive. No kid should have had to do what I had to do, in order to just live, just saying. There were some really dark days. Lots of therapy later in life helped me with this. Shortly after I turned 18, I found a job working at a boxing gym, states away from where I began this horrible journey. I worked there for years, learned the sport, never gonna beat Mike Tyson, but was good at the sport, which helped me with my hate and anger. Then one day met a new girl, Eamon, 20, female, at the cafe down the street from the gym. So at this point I was 35, I know, huge age gap, but we just clicked. I don't believe in fate, or soulmates or any of that stuff like that. But if there is such a thing, we had it. Don't know how else to put it. We dated for 2 years and then got married. Her dad was an electrician, and hired me on afterwards. I think mostly to know I would be able to support his daughter and know I was doing right by her. But also in case he needed to keep me in check. He never said this, but as a dad, I get it now. Well, 15 years later we are still together with 4 beautiful daughters. I just passed my master's license as an electrician. Thanks to my wife for pushing me to get my GED. She has been my rock, my cheerleader, my overall support through this all, and I can't tell her enough how much she changed my life. And how much I love her. Anyways, sorry for the tangent. So just this last weekend I received an email from my stepsister. Not sure how she got my email address. But I know it isn't hard via the internet. Not like I've been hiding. Mind you, I'm now pushing 53. So it's been 30 years since I've heard from any of them. It was a long email. Not gonna give you all of it, but the meat of it is, they now know what really happened. Mark, I guess, was busy drinking with his buddies on Friday, and somehow my name was mentioned. Mark, I guess, started bragging how he set me up and took my girl. Yup, Mark and Lisa got together, married. All those years ago. They were all laughing, hoping I died on the streets, bunch of rude and vile stuff. Guess he forgot Lisa was there, and she heard it all. She called my stepsister to let her know, and so Emily spent all weekend trying to find me. Like I said, the email was long. Short of it is, they want to apologize face to face, although it was already said in the email multiple times, and want to make up for lost time. I'm however indifferent to the idea. Like, I have no ill feelings towards her. She obviously was young and had no real say in the matter. But with lots and lots of therapy, I learned to let go of that hate and anger and to let go of them. As well with all the love I receive from my wife, kids and in-laws, it's all I really need. I'm of the idea of just deleting the email and moving on like nothing happened. My wife thinks I should at least respond back, even if to say something snarky like thanks for finally believing me, only took over 30 years. Did I mention my wife has a mean petty streak to her? LOL. She's awesome. Guess not asking for advice, just wanted to share my story. There is a boxing quote that I have up in my house that reminds me every day. To see a man beaten not by a better man, but by himself is a tragedy. Comments. Comment 1. Interesting. I'm with your wife on this. I'm petty like that too. Question for you. What happened to your dad's stepmom? Any mention of them in that email? Perhaps for final closure, simply respond you appreciate them reaching out after 30 years. But you have a great life without any of the people who would throw out a 16-year-old child on the streets. Then ask not to be bothered again, or say you're willing to meet if and work Lamarck. Lisa, your dad and stepmom beg for your forgiveness on their knees to make up for the hell you endured. Comment 2. It's up to you what you should do. Personally, I'd either delete the email, or respond telling her, thanks for letting you know, and that while you bear her no hard feelings, you have no interest in reconnecting with any of the rest of them. Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone for their kind words and advice. I wasn't looking for advice, just wanted a place to share my story. To those that gave me credit for overcoming everything, thank you. However, the wife thinks she deserves most of it. LOL. And in all honesty, she does. To those that think this is fake, it's Reddit. I get it, it is what it is. Most things have to be taken with a grain of salt. I shared my story, I can't make you believe me. But that's okay, if my story resonates and helps others know they can survive, then I'm happy with that. And that's all that matters. Okay, for the update. Gonna post most of the original email as a lot of you have requested. Kept out some deep personal info, but majority of it is there. Might have to break it up due to character limit. Plus a response with the help of my wife, and also the help of others who made suggestions, which is good because I'm not that great at putting down in words how I feel without coming off looking dumb. She was able to make me sound less dumb. LOL. Taking the family to the lake for the weekend to recharge and leave this all behind me. Thanks again to everyone. Email from stepsister. Dear OP. This is your sister Emily. As I sit down to finally reach out to you after what feels like an eternity, I would like to explain why. I understand if you choose not to read this, but I truly hope you will take the time to at least hear me out. First of all, I want to apologize for never taking the time to contact you before. I was misled by Mark and Dad, who constantly painted a negative picture of you in my mind. They filled my head and heart with lies and made me believe that you were someone you were not. For a while I held on to hope that you would come back home, but as time passed and their words continued to poison my thoughts, I let go of that hope and allowed myself to believe the worst about you. It pains me to admit that I even started to hate you, despite the fact that deep down, I always considered you a brother to me. I felt betrayed by the twisted image that was presented to me, and I regret not reaching out to hear your side of the story sooner. A lot has changed in our family since you left. I got married, and now you're an uncle. Mom and Dad are still together, and are preparing for retirement. Mark and Lisa eventually got married, and they have no children. However, the truth that has recently come to light has shaken the very foundation of everything I thought I knew. On Friday, Lisa overheard Mark boasting about how he orchestrated the setup against you, how he manipulated the situation to make you look bad, and how he convinced us to turn against you to his friends as they all got drunk. They laughed about the pain he caused you, and the lies he spread, all while belittling you in the cruelest and meanest ways possible, saying things like they hope you died in the streets. Lisa couldn't keep this bombshell to herself, and when she confided in me, my world came crashing down. To think that I could have been so wrong about you for all these years is a heavy burden to bear. I can't begin to express how deeply sorry I am, as is Lisa. We both realize now the extent of the manipulation and deceit that was carried out against you, and we are devastated by this fact. After sharing this revelation with Mom and Dad, Dad started crying, like really crying. I've never seen him cry before. I believe it because he has been carrying around a lot of guilt all these years. Obviously, now knowing the truth, he is now having to deal with the consequences of his actions. However, after several hours of talking, we all came to the conclusion that we needed to find you and make amends. I've spent hours trying to locate you, in the hopes that I could reach out and extend a heartfelt apology for the years of misunderstanding and mistreatment and hurt. I know that words can never undo the damage that's been done to you, but I sincerely hope that you can find it in your heart to forgive us. We long to make amends, to start anew, and to maybe even make up for lost time. Please know that I am truly sorry for the pain and hurt that you have endured because of our ignorance and blindness. I hope that someday we can meet in person, so that I can look you in the eye and express my remorse face to face. I can only hope that you will consider giving us a chance to right the wrongs of the past, and to heal the wounds that have been inflicted on you by us. With all my love and sincerest apologies, your sister Emily. Email response from OP. Dear Emily, I appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me, but I must be honest with you. The years of pain and hurt caused by the lies and manipulation by Mark and the betrayal by Dad have left deep scars that will never be truly healed. While I understand that you are now aware of the truth and are genuinely sorry for what has transpired, I find it difficult to simply forgive and forget. The betrayal and abandonment I experienced at the hands of my own family have left me with a sense of distrust and resentment that can never be overcome. The damage that has been done has impacted me in ways that you may never ever fully and truly understand, and the idea of trying to reconcile now feels like an insurmountable task. I have spent years in therapy trying to come to terms with the pain and deep trauma I endured, and I have worked hard to build a wonderful life for myself that does not rely on the presence or approval of those who turn their backs on me. While I am grateful for the apology and the newfound awareness of the truth, I do not feel compelled to rekindle a relationship that was built on lies, deception, and betrayal, especially after all these years. I have found peace and closure in distancing myself from those who caused me harm, and I do not see the need to reopen old wounds in the name of reconciliation. While I believe in the power of forgiveness, that isn't something I can give. I wish you all the best in your life. I really do. But I must prioritize my emotional health and self-preservation above all else. I hope you can respect my decision and understand that the wounds of the past will take a lifetime to heal. I would appreciate if you pass this fact on to the others, and please don't reach out again. I must look to my future, and not my past. Sincerely, OP. Update 2. But thankfully all has been quiet. I think my response made it clear they weren't family anymore and decided to accept it. Outside of that, everything has been good. Actually more than good. Found out we are having a baby boy. Although this wasn't planned, we are super excited, as are the girls. Not gonna lie, I'm a bit nervous. I think my wife can tell. She just keeps telling me I'm a great dad, and not to worry. And yeah, after this one we are done, and I'll be going in for the snip. In the words of Sergeant Mustang, I'm too old for this. Just wanted to leave you guys with a little dad advice. Work hard but stay humble. Never forget how hard you worked to get where you are today. Never forget who you are is so much greater than what you do. Now, for the next story. I found out my husband has been telling his coworkers that I'm his sister. What do I do? My husband, I'll call him Josh, and I've been together for 6 years, married for 4, and we don't have kids. We have a really healthy and communicative relationship. We're both pretty easygoing and I really love him. He started working at a large accounting firm about 3 years ago, and from what he tells me, he loves it there. He's made a lot of friends through his job, and he goes out with them for drinks and social events quite often. And I've been totally okay with that. I'm quite introverted, so I've never been interested in meeting his colleagues or work friends, nor have I asked to. I've got my own circle of friends and I'm fine with us having separate friend groups. After what happened yesterday, it only just occurred to me that he has never actually asked me if I'd like to meet any of them, or go to one of his work events. I guess that's important context. Anyway, I'll start with what happened a few months ago, that I had brushed off until now. I was at a bar with some friends for a couple of Friday after work drinks, and a guy approached me. He was there with some friends, too. He looked slightly familiar, but I hadn't met him before. He seemed friendly enough, and he asked me, "My name, right?" I think I must have just given him a confused look, because he followed up with, "I'm Jake. I work with Josh." I realized that I recognized him from some photos on my husband's phone. I don't use social media except for a private Instagram, so I'm not sure if he posted the photos anywhere, but we've got a very trusting relationship, so I look in his photos sometimes. Don't hate me. This is where it gets a bit embarrassing. I'm a bit socially awkward, and so I struggled to end the conversation. But he just kept talking at me. I guess he was already a couple of beers deep. But while he was talking, he said something like, "It's great that you guys are still so close. I haven't talked to my brother in ages." At the time I was like, huh? But I just assumed he was drunk and not making sense, so I ignored it. He started to get a little flirty, so I turned to my friends and we left shortly after that. I didn't say anything to them about it, and it didn't seem like a big deal to me. I also decided not to tell my husband that I had met his coworker Jake. Not to hide it, but because I figured the guy would remember talking to me. and I didn't want to make it awkward for Josh at work by telling him his colleague tried to hit on me. I just thought no harm no foul. But yesterday morning, I was out walking our dog Monty. He's a cross between a few breeds and has very unique markings. This matters, I promise. And was on my way to my regular cafe, which is in town. I was waiting in line to order, and the guy in front was an older man. He got his coffee and turned around, but stopped and looked at my dog and goes, "Hello, Monty." Monty was super excited to see him, apparently, and so I guessed that the guy was another colleague of Josh's, because Josh brings the dog to the office a couple of times a week. I thought it was sweet, to be honest, so I smiled at him and said hi. He introduced himself. I guessed correctly that he was a colleague, but then he said something like, "Aren't you so good, sister, walking as Sooty?" I was so confused that I didn't even know how to react at first, so I stumbled on my words and just said it's my dog. I regret it, but I genuinely couldn't bring myself to correct him and say that I'm Josh's wife and not his sister. It was just too awkward, and I just wanted to leave because I think was suddenly dawning on me what might have been going on. He asked me something about sharing a dog, but I was able to escape the conversation by being next in line to order my coffee, and he left. I seriously don't know what to do, because what the fuck? Do I even ask my husband about this? Part of me is just assuming, or hoping that it's a mistake, that he doesn't talk about me much at work, and they assume we are related, because we both have brown hair. But the thought that he has been telling his coworkers that I'm his sister, and evidently they have seen what I look like, so they must have seen photos, makes my stomach churn. I don't even know how I would broach the subject with him. I need some help. What would you guys do in this situation? I have only told one friend what happened, because it's so weird and embarrassing, and she has jumped straight to time to plot his downfall, because she's my ride or die lover, but I don't want to immediately assume the worst or ruin my marriage over something that could be nothing. I'm sorry for the long and rumbly post, but I would really appreciate any and all advice. Edit. AITA. Holy fuck, thank you everyone who commented with some advice. I haven't read all of them, but I really appreciate the suggestions from you guys. A small update: Josh came home at about 2:30 a.m. last night. But he was drunk, so he just went straight to sleep. Which is fine by me, because fuck having this conversation in that state. I've just woken up but he's still sleeping. First thing I just want to clear up. I've seen a lot of people suggesting I have crippling social anxiety, or I'm severely introverted, which I suppose you could glean from the way I explained what happened, but I'm not. I meant that I'm slightly introverted and that I'm not the most eager to meet lots of new people at once, especially a bunch of finance bros whose weekends consist of unending sports bar beers, where I assume I would be mansplained everything until my ears bleed. Probe a negative assumption. But I'm sure some of you know what I mean. I suppose you could say that I'm confrontation averse and that I'm quite laid back, and prefer to keep a conversation easy and positive. I don't like it when things are awkward, and correcting when people misrecognize me is one of those things. But I'm not terrified of confrontation. Also, my husband and I do share some mutual friends. I didn't explain that well, but our lives are not entirely separate. The way he acts towards me around our mutual friends is extremely affectionate and normal. It is only his work friends that I have never interacted with. I've also seen some people suggest that what is going on is equivalent to my husband beating me, and me hopelessly wondering whether I should break up with him, or that I'm stupid for thinking my relationship was healthy when it clearly isn't. Like, damn, cut me some slack. I'm a real person, and this is an entirely alien and bizarre situation for me. My first reaction wasn't to assume the worst, but I do appreciate that you all have made me certain that it is a big deal. I guess I needed confirmation that the things that happened are enough proof that Josh has been purposefully lying, and they weren't just mix-ups. I'm going to talk to him today, and ask him directly why he's telling his coworkers that I'm his sister. I followed the advice of writing my points down, so that they don't get lost if I get emotional, LL. I will do my best not to let him slither out of it, and I hope he has some proof that his colleagues know I'm his wife. I know that's not the theatrical confrontation you guys were hoping for. But it's a Saturday and I can't wait. Wish me luck. Thank you all. Comments. Comment 1. If he really did this to fit in, how did it take him a whole day to come up with the story? Even if it has any kernel of truth, he definitely workshopped it, LOL. Comment 2. You can tell the marriage is dead in the water since he didn't immediately confess to his work colleagues after being confronted by his wife. He's still a coward. 3 years of being single and acting single, going out with his work friends. No way he was able to be faithful. Hope runs for the hills. Update. I'll just get right into it. On Saturday morning I woke up earlier than my husband. He was very hungover, so he was like sleeping a rock. But you guys will be proud of me, because I followed some advice and decided to look through his phone properly while he was sleeping. I had been on his phone so often just pissing around on it, that I had never thought to check anything very deeply. I know his passcode by heart. I checked all the expected things like Instagram DMs, Facebook Messenger, his messages, etc., and I didn't find anything that set off alarm bells to me. But I know from some comments that people who are cheating are good at covering their tracks and hiding messages, so I kept looking around. I saw he had a folder called Work, and so I looked in there, and he had a couple of Microsoft apps, Outlook, Authenticator, OneNote, etc., but he also had MS Teams. So I opened that up and had a look around. It did feel like I might have been breaking laws looking at his work messages, but I obviously had to. Anyway, I was already upset to see that he had a bunch of one-on-one chats with several female coworkers, which at first glance is obviously not an issue, because everyone works with people of the opposite gender, and are required to communicate with them. But a couple of them were vaguely flirty. Nothing I would call egregious, but there would be the occasional message between them with some playful innuendo or a wink emoji. These upset me, obviously, and they did send me into a bit of a spiral, but I didn't find anything that suggested he was having an out-and-out affair with any of them. Still, I followed someone's suggestion of screenshotting the messages and I airdropped them to myself. I still wanted some evidence of the lie, though some proof of Josh telling someone that I was his sister directly. A commenter suggested that I go through his messages and search for keyword sister. I wanted to reply to your comment and say thank you for the idea, but the post was locked, so I couldn't, but thank you. So I searched for sis on his MS Teams, hoping to find results for both sister and sis. A bunch of messages from all hands group chats, or one-on-one chats came up from other people, all unrelated and about their own sisters or whatever. But my heart dropped out my ass, LOL, when I saw there was a direct message from Jake, the guy from the bar, to Josh from a Monday a few months ago. Jake's messages said, ran into your sis at the bar, on free. She's single, right? And my husband had the fucking gall to reply, nah, she's married. I literally almost burst into flames on the spot when I saw that. I can't even describe how much I was shaking after reading those messages. Firstly, that I could have confronted Josh about this months ago. I was and still am, so furious with myself for that. Josh would have been fucking praying I didn't remember meeting Jake, or that I wouldn't mention it. And he would have been counting his lucky stars that I never did. He probably thought he was hot shit for getting away with that. And I nearly burnt a hole through the floor thinking about it. LOL. But secondly, I was just in shock that he had the balls to tell this guy that I am the one who was married, because he doesn't want anyone having it on with me. But she is allowed to coyly flirt with every fucking woman in the office. Anyway, I kept going back through the search results on his MS Teams. And eventually I got as far back as 2-ish years ago. And I did in fact find a message from Josh himself to a group chat. It said me and sis in Nusa Dua. I clicked on that and saw that he had sent it alongside a bunch of photos of him and I from our holiday to Bali. We went to Bali for our 2nd anniversary. I thought he probably chose those photos because he's shirtless and had been working out, so he looked hot in all of them. I was in tears seeing all of this, obviously. I took screenshots of those too and airdropped all of the screenshots to myself. Needless to say, I was devastated, and still am, to see all of that. I am still struggling to even process it at all. But that all happened on Saturday morning, and I immediately took myself to my friend's house. I'll call her Sophie. I went to her place to cry it out, and show her what I found. And she was extremely supportive, and probably more furious than me. LOL. At around 1:30 p.m. I got a phone call from Josh. And I hung it up immediately. He sent me a few messages along the lines of, where are you, baby? I'm ordering food, want some? Sad to not wake up next to you this morning. Guys, I have to reiterate how much I love this man, and how fucking heart-wrenching it was to see him still acting like nothing had gone wrong. It took so much willpower to not just pretend none of it had ever happened, and go home to him. I know a lot of you will yell at me, or accuse me of being terrified of confronting him about this. Which is not true. Please have some empathy. It takes me time to process my emotions, and I wouldn't have even been able to form a sentence if I tried to confront him immediately after seeing those messages. I needed some time away with Sophie to recollect myself, and so I stayed the night at her place. She ordered us Chinese and she helped me plan how I would confront him. I got a bunch more texts and calls from him as the evening progressed, and I eventually put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Sunday morning I woke up feeling more angry than sad. So I opened my phone and finally replied to his messages. Coming home now, need to talk. I kept it cryptic to make him squirm, to be honest. Because I was fraught with emotions. I can't remember the entire conversation word for word, but I'll try to replay it as best I can. Long story short, I got home and he tried to hug me, but I refused him, and we just stood in the kitchen. I did confront him like someone suggested. I just said, "Why have you been telling your coworkers I'm your sister?" I wish it would have been like a movie scene, where the color drained from his face, or he immediately looked like a deer in headlights. But he didn't. It was like he had been girding himself for this confrontation for a while, because he just frowned at me and looked flabbergasted. He just said, "Huh. This made me so angry. How are you going to pretend to be stupid after 3 years of lying?" I basically said, "Don't play fucking dumb. 2 of your coworkers have greeted me as your sister, and I have proof of you telling them. And I know you're pretending to be single." Essentially, I asked him what he had to say for himself. He still played stupid. He became moderately defensive, and just kept saying, "I don't know what you're talking about. Or why would I lie about you?" I cannot describe how furious I was at this point, but I was in tears. I always cry when I'm angry. So he's trying to comfort me as if I was having some kind of irrational breakdown. I showed him the screenshot of his message saying me and sis. And I said something like, "You tell me." He just said, "I don't know what I'm looking at. And I'm confused." I got so angry that I left again, and went back to Sophie's because it felt like a dead-end road. I didn't think I was going to get him to admit to anything, and I was just getting so furious I couldn't continue. He was really upset, and in tears, which to me was evidence that he knew he was lying, and that he was going to have to come up with some explanation. He tried to get me to stay, but I told him that until you have something to say for yourself, we've got nothing to talk about. At like 8:30-ish, he called me again, and I did pick up. He basically asked for us to talk, and he said he has some things to say. So I went back to our apartment. He had written out a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper as if he had prepared a speech, and sat me down on the couch. He asked me not to say anything while he was explaining himself. I'll write down the gist of what he said in bullet points. He started by apologizing relentlessly, and admitting that he pretended to be stupid before, because he couldn't immediately think of something to say for himself. He said that immediately after he started at his job, he realized the atmosphere was like a farmhouse. All of his team members were men in their 20s and 30s that were single and fuckboys, his word. He noticed that the one guy in their team that was married would either get picked on, or essentially excluded from any and all social interactions. That included getting lunch, inside jokes, going out on Fridays, etc. These guys were friendly and welcoming to Josh, and he admitted that he was desperate to fit in with them. He hated feeling like fresh meat. So he was scared that saying he was married would alienate him from his coworkers, and at first just never mentioned that he was married. He said he did wear his wedding ring and that they had just never pointed it out. A few months in, they were all out drinking after work. He admitted that after one of his workmates saw a picture of him, and I on his lock screen, they asked him who I was, and in a moment of panic he said, "My sister." He was really apologetic at this point, and he was crying a lot. He couldn't even look at me, and he was just reading what he had written down. Anyway, he said that from then, he basically dug himself a deeper and deeper grave, because they kept grilling him about me, and wanting to see more pictures of me. So said he had let it go on too long, and that he didn't have the balls to admit to the lie. They would always bring me up and ask shit like, "Did you give her my number yet?" Or joke that they had slept with me, etc. So when he got that message from Jake, he essentially thought it was just him taking the piss. But he didn't like the jokes they were making about me and said that I was married in hopes they would stop. They didn't. He said that this wasn't the first time he told them I was married. In fact, he had said so pretty much immediately after saying I was his sister. He said that those pictures of us in New Sadu were the only pictures that he had purposefully sent them and deliberately lied about, after what he called an endless barrage of pestering from his colleagues to share the pics from his Curry's holiday. He said he was really ashamed that he did that. He told me that he had never had an affair or even considered it, that the messages between him and his female colleagues were banter, and that it was commonplace to talk to people like that in the office. He also said he knows how disgusting it is, and he's embarrassed to have been acting like a fuckboy. Again, his word. He concluded his speech by apologizing again, and said that he was disgusted with himself and ashamed that he had lied for so long, but felt like he had trapped himself, and that he couldn't find a way to get himself out of it. He said he knows he could have confessed the truth to either his coworkers, or to me at any point, but that he didn't because he was a coward. He said that he'll confess to his entire office that he lied, and that I am his wife and not his sister if I want him to. He said that he will quit his job without a word if it would make me feel better, and that he hopes I can forgive him, but he understands if I can't. Anyway, I couldn't really think of anything to say at that point. He went to lock himself in the bathroom, and I just sat on the couch crying. I still don't know if I can trust what he said, and a lie that extreme is just baffling to me. If he can lie like that for so long, what else could he be lying about? But his explanation and apologies seem so sincere and genuine, and I guess to an extent what he said is believable. He has always been extroverted but very susceptible to peer pressure, especially from other blokes. If nothing else, to me it's a sign of shocking immaturity. Anyway, I packed up a bag and went back to Sophie's, and I'm still at her place as I'm writing this. She said I can stay as long as I need to. I told Josh that I needed time away from him to think about everything, and whether or not I believe him, or whether I can ever trust him again. He told me to take as long as I needed, and that he will still be there if or when I get back. He said, even if it takes a year. Right now nothing feels real. I'm still dealing with the emotional whiplash from all of this, and I can't keep food down or think about anything. I've taken the day off work and Josh told me he's going to take off the whole week. Sophie and my other friends have told me not to make a decision on anything until my head is clear. I spoke to my parents this morning, and my mom says it's just a bump in the road. But she and my dad adore Josh, so they're pretty biased. LOL. That's where I am right now. I'll take some time before I consider my next steps. I can't say whether I'm leaning towards forgiveness or divorce. But those are really only options. I kind of feel lost in a void at the moment. That's probably the best way to describe it. Just emptiness. Thanks again for all of your advice and support. I'm truly so grateful. And having this place to write down all of my thoughts has been helpful to get my mind a little clearer. This will be my last update, unless I make an edit to clear things up. All the best. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for losing my shit on my husband on the day of his family reunion? I'm a 35 years of female, married to a 38 years of man. We have been together for 10 years, and have 2 children, 9 and 5. My husband works very hard. He has multiple jobs he works throughout the week. Recently we had a discussion about taking time off and spending some time together. It is difficult because of things in his past. He accumulated a lot of debt, which is why he works so much. I work 60 hours a week and take care of the household and childcare things, while much of his income goes to paying his debts. I keep up with the household. I do the housework and lawn work, repairs, etc. And he contributes where he can. Within this year he has taken time off for family and co-worker events. He has scheduled time to take trips with his friends, and when he does so I'm the designated babysitter. Many days after he gets home he is responsible for his parents. He takes them grocery shopping, fixes things at their household, and does some of their housework. I forgot to mention he is one of 5 and all 4 siblings live close to his parental home. His parents assist in child care for his siblings but not for ours. I've told him my frustrations of being consistently placed on the back burner. The other day I lost it. I found out he invited his family to our house for a family reunion last week. I thought he took time off of work and he didn't. The house was a mess, and most of the mess is his. I was expected to clean the house, get the groceries, run the kids to their weekend events, start cooking and get the reunion set up, as he set the time for 4 p.m. the time he gets out of work. The kids are helpful in doing their chores and cleaning their rooms. I got the house clean and by the time his family started pouring in I was stewing as he was at work. He asked me why there weren't any clean towels as he was going to take a shower. And I freaked out in front of his whole family. I ran down the list of how I am always on the back burner for these people, how I am one person, and I'm the one contributing to the household while he works just to pay off his debts, and I have no security or support in this relationship, and that he is like having another child, and that all I feel like I'm worth is an occasional fuck whenever he is in the mood. I let it all out. I ended with I'm done. I packed a bag and I took off. I'm sat in a parking lot hysterical. And no, the kids weren't present, they were outside playing. He is a good father to the kids, but as a husband I feel like I am better off by myself. I have so much resentment towards him. And no, he hasn't called, he texted me loud and clear, which made me even more angry because this is exactly how he deals with everything. I'm now feeling like an asshole for going off and saying all I did, especially in front of his family. Am I the idiot? To P&I. Comments. Comment 1. Tell him to move in with his parents while he pays off his debt. That way he can care for them, hang with his friends, take the kids on the weekends and do whatever he wants to do with no consideration of you. Then you can enjoy your home children and weekends to relax, all with one less giant child to care for. Comment 2. People who let their parents get away with identity theft drive me wild. I get that it's probably accompanied by other abuse that makes it draw that line, but these stories be stilly, my head explode. You run up 6 figures on my credit, and I don't care when you are. Update 1. The one subtracts. After the loud and clear text, I was bombarded with phone calls and texts from his family. I sent a message to my husband to give me some space, and if he had any care for me, and this relationship, to call off his dogs. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb with the exception of my children's iPad. I had called my mother, sent her some money, and she picked them up for a special grandma date sleepover. Once they were there, I FaceTimed them and told them I was working. I'm not working. I had a secret rainy day fund and splurged on a nice hotel and spa day. Had a few drink, cried my eyes out some more, and just spent the day unplugged and journaled all my feelings. I haven't had time to do any of that in a very long time. After that, I mustered up the courage to open Reddit and read my fate, and wow, was I surprised. I was fully expecting a ton of "you are the asshole" comments. To clear up a few things. I shamefully do not know the lengths of his debts. Much of it was from his parents putting bills in his name. Others is just mismanagement of money, credit cards, etc. I took over the finances after I found a letter in the mail saying that we were going to lose the house. I was contributing to the household bills at the time, and he was doing the finances. I trusted things were well. This was after marriage and after kids. We went to counseling because of it, and he said he was ashamed and afraid to tell me the truth. I took over about 3 years ago, and I told him to focus on clearing his debt, and I'd hold the household down while he did. I did not expect it to take this long, and with inflation everything has just become more expensive, and that much more hard for me. I was supposed to go back to school, and that was put on hold so I could catch up on what we were behind. Hence the working 60 hours. I'm a nurse and I work 12-hour shifts and capitalize on overtime where I can. I agree with the comment saying I'm burnt out. I realized this today. I realized at work or at home I'm constantly in critical thinking caregiver mode. My job is to care and problem solve for everyone, but myself. To clear up the comment of his family doesn't watch our kids, is because they did so one time and threw it in our faces, and I said never again. I see how they use him. I've said something before and he returns with "one day they won't be here. And I'll wish I could have done more." I told him that's fine, but you have siblings that are equally responsible. Some that don't have spouses or kids that can contribute. As far as the house and things go, he does really help when he can. Don't jump on me, I just want to be truthful. I think it came across that he comes home and does nothing. He just works up to 16 hours 7 days a week, so a lot of times it's me doing the majority of it. As far as the trips goes, yeah. That's a sore spot. He tells me about them. He takes the day off, it pisses me off. I have to beg for time, and when we do get it we end up in a fight. Or I have to plan everything, or we can't get sitters and sit home and he sleeps all day. And to be honest, I'm so full of resentment that it's almost too little too late. Like when I'm around him I'm just so pissed off. He says I always have an attitude, and that he's trying but nothing is ever good enough. So I just stopped and accepted my fate, hence the blow up. I haven't spoken to him yet besides telling him to call off his family. He was part of the did on my phone. I'm enjoying the peace, I'm enjoying being by myself, and just being present and aware of my feelings. Knowing my kids are safe and I can truly take some time for myself, and my mental health right now is everything. I know tomorrow I have to go back to reality, and deal with everything. I promise to update when I can. I'm sorry to leave you all hanging if this isn't the update you had hoped for. I just want to enjoy this escape a little while longer while I can before my world implodes. Thank you all and please keep the advice coming. I truly am alone on this one, and need all the advice and support I can get. Update 2. Update: thank you all again for all the advice. I woke up this morning with a clear head. I'm still upset and disappointed. I had tons of voicemails from his family. I don't have the energy to listen through them all. I don't care, like I said, I'm angry, but I also feel embarrassed. I did call my husband this morning. I could tell by his voice he didn't sleep last night, and he confirmed that he in fact did not. He told me after the blow up he asked everyone to leave. He was surprised to see my mother as I sent her to pick up the kids. He said that's when it really became real. We had a long conversation. I did apologize for exploding and doing so when I did and not communicating better. He said he understands why I felt like I couldn't, and was actually glad it happened the way it did. His family finally got to see how much they affected his home. According to him, after I left he laid into them, and told them that he can no longer be the only one to help his family out, and that a lot of the mess he's in is their fault. He said that after the blow up he told his siblings they need to step up and help with his parents. His parents were obviously upset with the whole ordeal. I couldn't care less, to be honest. They couldn't believe that they are such a burden, because they ask for a little help from time to time. I just rolled my eyes in disgust as he was talking. My new space, along with my feelings of hurt and anger, just let me speak all my truths. I had nothing left to give or lose, so I told him how I felt about everything. He sat in silence for a while, then finally broke down and said he feels like a failure. He's ashamed of the debt and how much he has let us down. He said he was exhausted and has been feeling depressed because he couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel and feels as though he's ruined our future. That he goes out with his friends to feel normal in himself because all he does is work. That he does this because of this black cloud that's been hanging over him. I wasn't my best self in this moment and told him to save me the self-pity. It's pathetic that he got himself into this mess and I'm digging him out. I'm fucking depressed too. There's a ton of shit I want to do that I can't do because I'm financially unable to do so. I went off how over the past 3 years his income has gone solely to debt repayment, yet there's no end in sight because I haven't even seen that so-called debt. I've given him my all and as much support as I could gather, but I'm angry. This isn't the life I pictured or set myself up for either. It's not the life my kids deserve. I've missed out on so much because I'm working or I'm cleaning, or I'm just so tired I can't even open my eyes. I told him he has no one to blame but himself. I think my disdain was concerning. He said he will show and prove, that he will print out his credit report and list out all the debt he has along with all his pay stubs and bank records and the receipts of what's paid off and whatever else I want as far as his finances are concerned. He promised me my hard work was not in vain and that he is almost debt-free. Come to find out his parents opened credit cards and bills in his name when he was younger and accrued close to $100,000 of debt in his name, not including interest. They trashed his credit, and that's why it has taken so long. According to him, he has been fighting with the collection companies to settle, trying to consolidate or get a lower interest as it was multiple companies and debts. What I didn't know is some were so bad his wages were being garnished. He was in tears and said he didn't know how to tell me, that he didn't even know the extent of what they did. He was basically working all these hours, with nothing to take home to us and accruing more debt just to survive. I stayed silent. My blood was boiling. He didn't even realize he just helped me make my decision. He jokingly said my outburst took care of the family situation and that is why he texted me loud and clear, meaning he and they got the message. I told him I didn't find it funny. It's a shame that it took an outburst from me for everyone to hear what I've been saying all along. That he's an idiot for not filing charges on his parents and just taking it up the ass and allowing it to ruin my life and the children we created lives. I told him he's appeals and I feel so stupid. He said he didn't call me because he knew how mad I was and was scared he would say the wrong thing and say things just like that. I thanked him for the honesty and the conversation and told him I am so broken, angry, and hurt right now that I can't even pick up my pieces, let alone his. Right now I need to clear my head. He said he's willing to do whatever it takes to turn this around. He even suggested marriage counseling. He told me he used his PTO and took the rest of the week off to work on this. I lost it and sobbed uncontrollably. If it was that easy to take time off, why now and not then? I asked him why didn't I matter before we got here? Why now? I told him he needs the time off to find counseling, both personal and legal, that I won't be coming home. He asked me if I was serious. He begged me to rethink my decision. He said all the things I've been wanting to hear. He asked me where I was going to go, and what about the kids in the house and the bills, that I couldn't tear the kids from the only home they know. I simply replied, I know this is what needs to be done, and I've already set the ball in motion. He hung up on me. I cried, then went to get the kids. We are going to have a wonderful week in a somewhat fancy hotel, and swim in the pool and order room service, and make some memories. I took some of the money I had saved in my rainy day fund and extended my hotel stay to include me and the kids. I have an awful lot to catch up on with them. The look on their faces when I said no, mommy doesn't have to work tonight, was priceless. I also have an appointment with legal consultants tomorrow. Hopefully I can talk to a lawyer and figure out what's next. Wish me luck, everyone, and thanks again. Now, for the next story. I got a text from my sister's bestie about her and my husband loving me too much to do anything to hurt me. My sister's bestie told me that she feels guilty for being a snitch, but that she couldn't do this to me anymore, because she thinks that I am a kind person and don't deserve this. My sister and my husband have always got along very well. They're both brilliant, both lecturers at the university, and they have so much in common. I am not stupid, but I never loved school and I have high school education. They have become best friends throughout the years, 14 years, but never once did I feel uncomfortable about it since my husband has shown me nothing but love and respect. The opposite. Until now I counted myself lucky that the two people that I love the most in this world get along so well. But now I feel nauseated. The bestie sent me screenshots upon screenshots of her conversation with my sister. My sister has feelings for my husband and she appears to know that my husband feels the same way about her too. In one of the texts, My sister wrote that she loved me too much to do anything to hurt me. In another she wrote that I am too dear to both her and my husband to do anything that would hurt me. She seems to think that they're soulmates, which is odd, because the talk about soulmates came up once between my husband and I, when I told him that I didn't want us to be soulmates. He was curious and asked me why. I told him because soulmates meant that we are programmed or destined to fit together. There's no free will involved, and I want my love to come from a free space, not a predestined place. He laughed and said he loved that. But apparently they're soulmates. I know that I need to talk to him, but I am dreading that. I am in so much despair right now. Edit. AITA. Hi. Thanks for your help. I asked how I would be sure before asking my husband so he doesn't just blatantly lie, and you suggested to look into his phone. Thanks for your suggestion. I did now. I told him about my sister's conversations with her best friend and showed him the screenshots. He was shocked at first, and said he had no romantic feelings for her, and he had no idea about her feelings, so I asked to see his phone. I read their texts and emails, and I was shocked that their contact is way more intensive and intense than I thought. They talk on a daily basis. They have lunch multiple times a week. Nothing sexual in the text, but yeah, he is stupid if he doesn't know that she loves him, and he must think that I am stupid if after reading, I wouldn't get the feeling that he has some feelings too. In one of her texts, she wrote that she wished they had met first and under different circumstances. His answer wasn't totally dismissive. He wrote, yeah, it would probably have been different. When I asked him about it, he said, well, yeah, if he didn't know and love me, he would probably have been interested in another, my sister included. But he loves me and she is a close friend of his. So there's no sexual relationship between them, but I am not sure that is enough for me. I think they are both wrong and should have nipped it in the bud way earlier. I don't know what to do now. I think I need time for myself to process this. I don't feel well at all about this, and I don't want to make decisions from a place of fear and hurt nor convenience. I am sorry I can't answer all private messages, because I don't use my phone that often. But our ages are. My husband is 45. I am 42. My sister is 38. My husband and I have been together for 16 years and married for 14. My sister is single. I am not a stay-at-home mom. I have my own business. We don't have children. My sister has 2 from a previous relationship. Edit 2. Like Trey. So now I have had some long talks and discussions with my husband. He seems to think that this is getting bigger than it is supposed to because I told him that I needed time alone to think and digest this. He said that he doesn't understand why I am this hurt since he loves me and nobody else. I didn't relent, however, and he admitted that he knows that my sister is in love with him because she has told him so. But she knows that nothing can happen between them, so she is fine with just friendship. Martyr. He loves her but not romantically, and he is happy to have a friend like her. Their friendship is important to him and he doesn't want it to end, because I don't trust him and his love for me. He made a comparison to my best friend and asked what I would think if he asked me to cut my best friend from my life. He admitted that intellectually he has more in common with her than with me, but that the heart doesn't always choose who we are more compatible, and that he loves and is physically attracted to me. I think this whole situation is messed up. I am repulsed by them both. I texted my sister all her screenshots, and she wrote that she was disappointed in her bestie, and that your husband is all yours, because I would never let anything happen that would hurt you, because you are the most important person to me. In other words, they are both contradicting each other, since both seem to believe that they are the one who is not letting a relationship between them grow for my sake. Comments. Comment 1. 1. If what the friend sent you is true, you need to take a moment and gather your thoughts before this talk you need to have with your husband. If possible, check his phone so you have first-hand look at the communication, not the friend's one. If real, the emotional affair is more than enough of a betrayal. Comment 2. It fully could be one-sided. I agree to look through his phone, but I would ask. I would first show him the messages, then see how he reacts. If he confirms you got to the bottom of it all immediately, and you have no need to hurt yourself further with whatever is on that phone. If he denies, then I would check. Then if he says he's shocked too and has no feelings for her, then you say, I hope you can understand my point of view when I ask if I can check your phone right now. It reassures me that you're shocked, but I need an extra layer of confirmation. Update 1. I have written here in a few comments about my soon-to-be ex-husband and my sister. I left him about a week after, and he texted me day and night about how much he loved me and wanted me back. Then he just stopped. That's when I found out that my sister left her children at my parents' house and moved in with my husband. This made everything come out to the rest of my family, and my parents were shocked, and my mother really looked like she was already showing pets symptoms about how disgusting she felt this whole thing was. She kept calling it incest and asking, is that even legal? I guess that is how much my sister cared not to hurt me, if you read my first post. Even though I have been well composed and calm, that I surprised myself. I still tried my hardest to look back on my whole life, childhood and upbringing to understand when it all went so wrong. What my sister did felt like something that was the result of years of resentment, or at least indifference towards me and our relationship as sisters. So how did I miss that? She never cared about me, did she? If she didn't, how could I have been so blind? Then not even a week later I heard that they have ended things. I found out in the oddest way possible. My sister texted me. The first time she texted me since everything started. She just wrote, I hope you burn in life and in hell. I was very confused because she spent that week sharing cheesy deep quotes about love and soulmates and romantic Instagram stories with my stepsh. But apparently that was over. Stipsh has blocked her everywhere and she moved out. Because she came to my parents to get her children. And had a meltdown when they asked for explanation. Dipsh started calling and texting me again asking me to meet because he wanted to explain because he loved me and wanted me to understand. He wanted to meet at least once before we started to meet with the lawyers involved. So that is that. This has left me even more confused than if they just ended up together. I understand falling out and in love. Breaking up and starting anew, but I can't explain this. My spix keeps calling me his only love and true friend, and my sister, until I left, kept promising that she would never do anything to hurt me. She left her children at my parents' doorstep and didn't answer their calls or texts for a week. And all of this for a week. What were they thinking? Has anyone here heard of something like this happening? People throwing everything for not even a week. Update 2. Though it was I. After 1 week of being in love and my sister leaving her children at my parents' door, to be living in my home with my soon-to-be ex-husband, and flaunting everything on social media and sharing cheesy quotes, she moved back to her apartment and got her children from my parents. They aren't friends on Feb and he unfollowed her on Instagram. Now she is saying that I have ruined her happiness, and he started texting me again begging me to talk in private. Because he needed to explain everything before we started getting our lawyers involved between us. I understand that people fall out of love and sometimes they can't control who they fall for. And they can hurt many people around them, but I never heard of two people throwing everything they pretended to care about for 1 week. Now, for the next story. Our neighbors have been having pool parties at our pool, while we are not home for years. A few years ago my husband and I purchased a house with a pool. Now we are acquainted with most of our neighbors but definitely not close friends with any of them. They all seem nice but just don't have much in common other where we live. Next door to the right is a family of 6, twin daughters attending the local university, high school-age son and a young elementary school-age daughters who are 2nd grade and the parents. Now normally we open the pool in early May and keep it open until the end of October. But this year our weather was off, and we had a very cool and very wet month of May. And then June went straight to 100 temperatures. I am currently on a medication that makes it difficult for me to tolerate being in the sun and heat for an extended time. Plus we have been helping 2 extended family members who are having health issues. So because of this we haven't had our pool opened yet this year. Normally we go to the family lake house for a week during each of the 3 major holidays. But we didn't go for Memorial Day because there was flooding around the lake this year, and because a family member was just discharged from the hospital yesterday, and July 4th being a Thursday this year we decided to stay home this week and be available to help this family member. Now several times in June the little girl next door has seen either my husband or myself outside, and she has asked when we are opening the pool. We first told her maybe later. But the last time yesterday, she asked, and I said we are probably just not going to open it this year. And she started crying. Now we have never had any of the neighbors over to use our pool, so I didn't understand why she was crying over us not opening our pool. Well, I spoke with the neighbor on the left later and apparently our neighbors on the right have been having a half-inch small family party at our pool every 4th of July when we are gone. They have always cleaned up really well afterwards, and because we have scheduled pool maintenance and weekly yard service occasionally things are moved around in our yard, and we never thought much about it. The neighbor on the left thought we had given the other neighbors permission to permit it. We did give them permission to retrieve any balls or toys that ended up in our yard, but never permission to use our pool especially when we are not at home. We have a special latch on the gate and my husband did show the neighbor how to open the gate to retrieve his kids' toys. So now my husband, who loves gadgets, is going to have several more cameras installed around the exterior of our house, covering the gate and pool area, and have the gate latch made where we can grant remote access for the pool service and yardmen. Luckily we have a friend who does cameras and home automation systems. I'm annoyed our neighbors have been using our pool without permission, but my husband is happy I am letting him get more gadgets around the house. Now do we confront the neighbors and let them know we know they have been using our pool, Or just wait and see if they say anything about our new security cameras. Comments. Comment 1. These people suck. Why in the world didn't he tell the neighbors that he was going off to the lake so that he could catch his neighbors in the act of using the pool, coming out while they are setting up their party, and asking what they are doing and forcing the neighbors to have to explain what they are doing would have been priceless. Comment 2. My petty ass would have packed up like I was going to the lake and went to my cousin's house on the morning of the 4th. Then I would have come home with the police and gave the neighbors the Pikachu face when I learned it was them. Update. A few things I feel I need to clarify. Yes, our backyard is fully fenced in with 2 gates. One in back is double locked from the inside. The side gate on the side of garage nearest the neighbors in question has a double latch that you have to reach over the top and find not 1 but 2 releases to open the gate. There is also an auto close that automatically closes the gate and latches it. I personally can't open the gate from the outside of the fence because I can't reach over that far to reach the 2 latches. The previous owner put this in, and it has worked well for our yard crew and the pool maintenance people. We do have some cameras, a doorbell camera, and a camera over our garage area. The garage camera picks up if someone goes towards the gate from the front, but we didn't want to invade our neighbors' privacy by recording their side garage door and gate to their backyard. We even shared the camera angle with them because we didn't want them to be concerned about us recording their children or their coming and going. I guess we were more concerned about their privacy than they were about ours. Anyway, the update. Thursday, July 4th morning, I was loading a few things in my vehicle to take to my cousin who just got out of the hospital. Neighbor husband, who has been gone a lot for work recently, saw me and came over and asked if I was getting a late start going to the lake. I let him know that we were staying home because we are helping my cousin who just got out of the hospital. He asked if we were going to be home all weekend. I said yes, one or both of us be around all weekend. He quickly wished me a happy 4th and went home. I went back in to grab my purse and tell my husband about the conversation with the neighbor before I left. When I got home, our friend Mike was there. Mike does security cameras and home automation systems, gadgets, and my husband loves gadgets. Mike and my husband have a plan for multiple cameras and several gadgets, some of which involve us going ahead and having the pool open. I agreed to all but one of the new cameras and almost all of the gadgets. I think husband put some in the plan knowing he would have to give up a few of them. Mike also suggested talking to our homeowner's insurance agent because we might be able to get some discounts with the security upgrades. So on Friday the 5th, Tom, our insurance guy, comes over and Mike is back, and he has a drone to help him find the best camera positions. Really, I think he just wanted to show off his gadget. So husband Mike and Tom are outside and all around the house and occasionally inside. I look outside every so often, and at different times other neighbors have come outside and down to our end of the street. So neighbors want to know what is going on, so husband tells them we are concerned that someone or several people may have used our pool without our permission while we were not home. It turns out that 2 different neighbors had witnessed some friends of the neighbor children come over last year, and they and the neighbor twins had gone into our backyard. One neighbor even asked the girls, and they claimed that we let them come over all the time and use our pool. So at this point husband and Tom discuss this, and Tom says we should send a registered letter to the neighbors rescinding our permission from entering our fenced-in backyard. So before Mike and Tom left, the neighbors on the right, pool party neighbors, come home, both husband and wife. My husband asks to talk to them, and with Mike and Tom as witnesses he tells them that for insurance reasons we are rescinding our permission for them, or any member of their family or guests, to enter our fenced-in backyard. And we will be sending a registered letter stating this as requested by our insurance. Husband never accused them, or their children, of using our pool, but said we had reason to believe that in the past our pool had been used without our permission. He did say that we had reason to believe that their older children might be friends with someone who has been in our pool. Husband also told them that we are changing the gate to have an automated lock and cameras will be installed around the pool area. He also assured them that we avoid the cameras pointed at their windows or backyard. Husband indicated that we were taking these measures to hopefully lower our homeowners' insurance rates. Husband said that they exchanged a few looks between them, but they said they understood and appreciated the heads up. So hopefully this saga is over, but if there are any other updates I will try and post them. Now, for the next story. OP doesn't want kids. Her beef has expressed he does. Communication wins a wholesome moment. My 30 female boyfriend, 34 male, and I have been together for the last 4 years. Our first date was basically our whole life stories and just talking about everything and anything, whether it be deep or not. I would say most of our relationship has been this way. Even when we fight, which has maybe happened a couple of times, we will take a break, regroup once emotions settle. When we disagree, we talk it through. He looks at me like I'm the most beautiful person he's ever seen. He constantly tells me how lucky he is to have me, and how I deserve the world. We both love to cook clean for the other person, so we always have different games set up, and the loser gets to relax, while the winner gets to pamper the loser. I know it sounds weird, but it works for us. I love this man so much, and I know he loves me just as much. Now, here's the problem. A couple months into us dating, kids got brought up. Communication is super important to me, and him, so I told him I didn't want kids. He thought I was joking because all my friends' siblings have kids at this point, and I'm the fun tier, auntie. I even put together parties for the kids and fun themed days when I'm having one-on-one time with them. I do love kids. But I don't want any of my own. I explained that, and he said, well, maybe you haven't met the right guy. I had to sit him down and explain that while I do believe people can change, he cannot be with me expecting my opinion about kids to change. He needs to take my not wanting kids at face value instead of hoping that I will change my mind, because what if I don't change my mind? I asked him to think it through for a week or two, and then we can circle back to the topic. Because at this point we are thinking about being official. But if kids were that important to him, then we needed to stop now before it gets much harder down the line. He told me later that kids are not that important to him and that he can see a future without kids in it. Fast forward to a month ago. His parents and some extended family were visiting for my boyfriend's brother's wedding. We are in the US and his family is from Eastern Europe. I've always gotten along with his parents, his brother's now wife. His parents will visit a couple times a year, and have always been so kind, thoughtful. At the wedding reception, I was being introduced to all of the family. Eventually someone asked when my boyfriend and I were getting married, and my boyfriend just winked at the question, because he knew I already knew that he was planning to propose soon. He just asked way too many ring-related questions since he knows I hate diamonds, but wasn't sure the direction he should go in since I barely wear rings. He could propose to me with a ring pop, for all I care. Later at one point, one of his cousins asked how I would feel about my future kid learning their native language, to which I responded, oh, I don't want kids, but I'm actually learning the language myself. There were a few members of the family around, including my boyfriend's parents. No boyfriend though. And they all gave me the what the hell are you saying look. I didn't understand why I was getting that look, so I just awkwardly laughed and asked everyone not to tell my boyfriend I was learning the language because I wanted to stick Coleman. I thought it would be cute to respond to his proposal in his native language. I went looking for my boyfriend and found his brother, the bride, instead. We were talking and eventually I asked, hey, is it weird in your culture to not have kids? 'Cause I got weird looks from your parents when I said, I don't want kids. His brother proceeds to tell me that it's not weird but that my boyfriend has always wanted to have kids, so it probably shocked their parents to hear that I didn't want kids. Apparently my boyfriend always wanted at least 3 kids, and he had always been super excited about the idea of having kids. I think his brother noticed the look on my face and backtracked a bit, saying something like, wait, fuck, it's not a big deal. He changed his mind because he loves you more than the idea of having kids. On the ride back home with my boyfriend, I asked my boyfriend if he really is okay about not having kids. He sighed, cause apparently he had heard from his parents about what I said. He apologized about it and said that he did stop talking about kids since we have been together, but that his parents always assumed we would have kids. He also sometimes wonders if I will change my mind, but he doesn't think I ever will. He said that when we talked about this while we were dating, he could imagine a future without kids, because he couldn't imagine a future without me. It's been a month since the wedding, but I've started to notice little things with my boyfriend. A lot of our friends have kids and I'm always letting my friends know that they can bring their kids over instead of having to find a babysitter. I've noticed that my boyfriend looks slightly envious when he sees our friends interact with their kids. Or sometimes I see him look slightly dejected when he sees a family with a bunch of kids. Maybe this is in my head now that I know that he's always wanted to be a dad until he met me. Maybe it's not in my head. I truly want him to be happy, but I know I don't want to be a mom. I wish I felt different and I wish I could compromise this for him. But I would never want to bring kids into this world, knowing I don't want them. That's not fair to the kid. And if him being happy means he finds else to have kids with, I will have to live with that. He knows something is wrong cause he said I feel far away lately. I think he knows why. I know I have to sit down with him and fully talk this out. Part of me feels like this conversation will lead to us breaking up because he really truly does want kids. I'm also worried that if he stays with me, he might resent me for not wanting kids like him. I just feel terrible. Tildra, when my boyfriend and I started dating, I told him I didn't want kids, and he said he was okay with it. 4 years later I found out that he's always wanted to be a dad from his family, and now I'm thinking that I can't truly make him happy wanting to live a child-free life. So I need to have a conversation and I'm feeling terrible, because there is a good chance that we might break up over this. Comments. Comment 1. The kid no kid issue is very real, and can cause incompatibility. I think you really need to press your BF on this issue. Maybe take a 2 to 3 week break from him, so he can experience life without you to judge for himself. Should he stay with you, or move on and find someone who wants children? In the end though, you can only listen to his words, watch his actions and probe his emotions after he sees other children or families. If he reassures you and you still have doubts, then a breakup may be the best option. Comment 2. This is incredibly sweet, and I hope we will all be so lucky to find happiness in another person, as these two have found in each other. Well, back to lifting weights alone at the gym. Update 1. 2 days after my original post, my boyfriend and I sat down to talk finally. As I suspected, he knew exactly what had been bugging me, but he didn't want to push me to have the conversation before I was ready. He started it off with why he is okay with not having kids. He grew up with his parents and brother. He saw the joy that his parents got from raising the two of them, but he also saw how unhappy they were in their marriage. Yes, they are still together, but they are more like co-parents, roommates than an actual couple. My boyfriend was very cynical when it came to relationships growing up, because he felt like he never saw enough happy couples. His parents weren't happy. His friends were in and out of relationships. He was in and out of relationships. In his head, kids would bring him his partner happiness and purpose in a relationship. Yes, he admitted to the absolute insanity that was his thinking, but when we started dating, he realized this and started going to therapy to help him work these feelings out. He's been in therapy ever since. He said when he met me, I changed everything for him, and that he knew on our second date that he was going to marry me. And so when months later I mentioned I didn't want kids, he was disappointed, but the main reason was because the idea of having little versions of me running around was something he had thought about for the months we were dating. And yes, he meant it when he said that he could see a future without kids but couldn't see a future without me. It's why he had been super supportive about me looking into surgeries to prevent kids being a possibility for me. It's why he never even brings up the possibility of either one of us changing our minds. I asked if he was jealous of our friends with kids, and he laughed. He said that when he sees a family or sees our friends with their kids, he can see that the relationship between a parent and child is special, but the freedom that we have in our relationship along with the extra funds we have for ourselves far outweighs past feelings about being a dad. He said that I was his family, and if I didn't want to increase the size of our family, that he has no problems with that, because he's already so happy. He finally found the love of his life, which he never thought would happen. So he doesn't want to mess with something that is perfect. He just never brought it up with his family, and was slightly concerned that they would try to pressure us. Kids are a big thing in his family. His brother already knew and obviously had no problems with it. He said he had a talk with his parents and the relatives he was closest to about it. His parents are not exactly happy, but my boyfriend admitted to me that he lied to them and said he was the one who didn't want kids first. He just wasn't sure what their reaction would be, and didn't want me to deal with any negative backlash. He said if I ever feel pressured about anything ever, whether it be by him or his family or even my family, to let him know because we are partners, we work through these things together. He isn't afraid of going NC with anyone who makes a big deal about something that isn't any of their business. I told him that my main concern was that he was putting my happiness over his because he has a tendency to do that with people he loves. And I didn't want him to regret anything later down the line. He said he understood my concern, but that he swore up and down that these 4 years have been the happiest of his life. And the fact that I was so stressed about whether he was happy or not is further proof that we are meant for each other. Because I also have a tendency to put his happiness over my own, LOL. He then proposed to me with the original ring he bought the first year we were together. I didn't even know he had bought a ring before. He said he would have done it that first year, but I had made a comment that I wanted to wait at least 3 years before getting engaged. Now, he is making significantly more money, so he has been looking to go all out on a new ring. But I really love the ring he originally bought. It isn't big or flashy, but it is a very unique design that is subtle, beautiful. The color is also the same color as my boyfriend's eyes, and I'm always gushing about them. He has the kindest eyes. So I told him there's no point in looking for another ring, because this one was already perfect. Told her boyfriend assured me that he is happy not having kids and loves me. So we didn't break up, and we are now engaged. Thanks to everyone who reached out and all the advice. This community really helped. Update 2. My fiancée and I recently got engaged not too long ago. While we were making plans, deciding on rings, so on, the proposal was very spontaneous and happened months before my fiancée had originally planned. I also originally planned to accept his proposal in his native language. However, due to events that led up to the proposal, I forgot. So I decided I would just keep taking classes. His brother or brother's wife will only converse with me in Polish when my fiancée isn't around. Then I would surprise my fiancée by giving my vows in Polish. The problem? My fiancé doesn't know I now understand a lot of the conversations he's having with his family and some of his friends, because I have to pretend I don't understand. This has been going on for months even before he proposed. I feel like I'm invading his privacy. 'Cause now I know. He has been planning to surprise me with his originally planned proposal, but now it's just an over-the-top engagement party. He once told his mom he missed her sauerkraut soup, so for the almost 5 years we have been together, I make this dish a handful of times a year during fall-winter for him. I had called his mom up for the specific recipe too. Turns out he has always hated IT. But it reminds him of home and his mom and sees how happy I get to make this for him. So he just eats it. Like I make a big pot only for him to eat, and I don't like sauerkraut. Now it makes sense why he always sends half of it to his brother Sil, who lives walking distance from us. He has been hiding my favorite candies around the house. For the last 2 years. I will find my favorite candies in places I was surprised to find them in. Like a random drawer here. On a shelf there. Like I get so happy and will run to him in my excitement about these random candies I must forgotten about. Nope. He just buys bags of them and will place them in spots randomly. He just loves how excited I get. I caught him telling his brother when his brother found one of them going through one of our kitchen drawer. His brother thought the whole situation was hilarious cause he's in on the fact that I understood the whole exchange. He has my period in his calendar so that he can be extra mindful get me my favorite things during the week to help keep my mood up. He has always known that I lied about being a morning person. I said that when we first started dating because he always went to the gym in the morning and would invite me to go with him. 4 or 5 years later, we still go to the gym together. And while getting up at 5 a.m. is still a pain for me, it's worth spending that extra time with him. Especially since we are both busy people. Turns out if I fall asleep before him, he has trouble sleeping. I snore. I have tried everything. He has never once complained to me about it, but I still use nasal strips have a special pillow that I thought helped. However, apparently if I fall asleep after him, he can just sleep through it cause he's a heavy sleeper. So now I make it a point to sleep after him. He hasn't caught on yet, I think. The last thing is something that he has told anyone who will listen. His parents. His uncles. His aunts. His brother. His brother's wife. His friends in Poland. Anyone and everyone who speaks Polish. If I'm in the room and he's on the phone with them, he will always look at me with a crazy big smile and tell them that he cannot wait to marry me. Ugh. I love the man so much. I don't think I can keep this charade up for a year. We are planning for a 2024 wedding. I am not good at pretending. I can't keep hiding my face or running out of the room when he is talking to family friends. And my birthday will be coming up in a few months, so I know he will be planning something. And probably think it's safe to talk about it with some people in Polish. I'm going to crack soon. I can feel it. Update 3. At 3. My fiancé threw that surprise engagement party for us, that I found out about since I've been learning his native language. It was beautiful and sweet and he flew his family and my family out to be there as well. We did a toast during the dinner portion of the party, and I decided to do my portion of the toast in Polish. As suggested by a comment on my last post. I explained in my toast I wanted my learning Polish to be a surprise for the proposal, but since that didn't work out, I wanted it to be a surprise for my wedding vows. However, I didn't count on the fact that I would be unintentionally eavesdropping on his conversations, and what was supposed to be a surprise engagement party for me was spoiled by me. I also went on to talk about the sweet things I found out through my eavesdropping, excluding the bit about the sauerkraut soup. Because his mom was there, I will take that to my grave, haha. And how it only further proved to me that I made the right choice by saying yes to his proposal. And that while I don't think anyone is ever really perfect, I do know that he is perfect for me. So my Polish wasn't perfect, and thankfully my Phil translated everything to my side of the family. I asked him to early on. Now here comes the absolute shock of the year. I don't know if I mentioned this as any of my posts, because there was no reason to at the time, but I am mixed, Black Latina. So a big chunk of my family speaks Spanish, myself included. Granted, I usually do speak English with my family and not often Spanish, but my maternal grandparents, who were at the engagement party, do only speak Spanish. I'm pretty sure you know where I'm going with this. After I was done with my toast, I looked over at my fiancé, who had tears in his eyes, and he freaking responded to my toast in Spanish. Turns out he was learning Spanish for the last year, and wanted to surprise me on our wedding day. While I don't speak Spanish as often as he speaks Polish, so no secrets were spoiled on my end, he wanted me to know that he embraced every part of my life and just wanted to prove that to me, by learning Spanish. There were a lot of laughs and tears shed, and both our families made it a point to learn simple phrases in the other's language, so that was really cute to see. All in all, I'm still planning to do my vows in Polish, and he plans to do his vows in Spanish English, since half my family also only speaks English. Haha. I'm happy I'm not eavesdropping anymore, because I did not enjoy invading his privacy, despite the sweet things I did end up learning. So that's that. I'm just very excited to spend the rest of my life with this man. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for suing my parents for my college money? My great-aunt set up savings accounts for all of her female relatives. In our culture, education for women is not really valued, and she thought that was bullshit. She lived with her father in London, where she was educated. She went on to attend university, and became a doctor. She married a British man, they moved to America and had a great life. She funded the education of as many of her nieces and grandnieces as she could. When she passed away, she left money for every girl relative she could. My parents managed to access the accounts that were set up for my sister and I. They used it to pay for my brother's wedding. My sister didn't care because she got married 2 years out of high school, and had no intention of going to college. When I graduated, I went to the bank to get money for school, and it was almost all gone. There was like $13,000 left. I asked my parents about it, and they said they had needed the money. I finally found out where the money went. I got furious. I got student loans and moved out. I am a great source of shame to them, and I don't give two fucks. I am currently suing them for the money that was left for me. My entire family is against me. They all think I am a complete asshole for airing private family business in public, and that I am putting money ahead of family. My friends are all on my side, but they are all Americans, and don't really get my culture. Neither do I, to be honest. My brother called me up and offered to pay for my university if I dropped the lawsuit. I agreed as long as we had a legally binding contract. He said I was being an asshole for not trusting him. I said he should not have accepted my money for his wedding. It is causing all kinds of embarrassment in our community. I am somewhat ashamed to be doing this, but I don't want to have this debt I should not have. Comments. Sate. Comment 1. Good for her. That they think they are punishing her by disowning her is pretty funny. I'm sure she is so sad that the people who attempted to steal her future aren't in her life anymore. They probably wouldn't even have some of that property if it weren't for Oopsie's money. So why should she feel bad that they had to mortgage, not even sell it? Comment 2. It's nice to see the cultural argument shut down so succinctly, and after every threat of shunning she simply doubled down that being shunned would be a further boon. There's really no defense against someone who can't be made to feel shame. I applaud her principles. Update. It's over. I got my money. I have also pretty much been disowned by my family, but I consider that a win as well. My parents ended up having to mortgage some property to pay me back for what they stole. My family is embarrassed that I forced them to this point, after they had offered to pay me back in installments. Nobody is willing to answer me when I ask what would make my parents pay me back, if I was stupid enough to trust them. I have been told that I will never find a husband from our culture with my belligerent attitude and strident independence. I laughed. I do not want anything to do with that culture except perhaps enjoy the food. I plan on never returning to that country. I am enjoying the independence I have achieved and am more than happy to know that several other of the young women in my family have taken steps to lock down the education funds left for them. For those of you that think it is sexist that my great aunt only cared about educating women, please die angry.